2, 1. And welcome to Cardinals Nest 2.0. This is the show where we talk with St. Mary's University student athlete alumni, get caught up on what they're doing now, and let them reminisce a little bit about their time as a St. Mary's Cardinal. I'm Dean Beckman, the faculty athletics representative for St. Mary's. My co-host, as always, Donny Nadeau, the sports information director for the Cardinals. Donny, our guest today is no stranger to the Cardinals Nest. Laura Sonday graduated in 2019 with a marketing and Spanish double major from St. Mary's. And I think, Donny, if we ever put together a compilation of the best of the Cardinals Nest, Laura's first appearance and only appearance, I think, would be on it. It was literally easily one of our best shows ever.
No question about it. And I know when we selected Laura to be on again as an alum, it was very exciting because it was such a great show, and it's just great to it's only been a year, but I'm excited to catch up with Laura and just kind of talk again about her career here at St. Mary's and what she's doing now. So first off, Laura, welcome back to the Cardinals Nest, but this time as an alum to 2.0.
Thanks, guys. What an introduction. I love it.
And no pressure, Laura.
Yeah, no pressure at all. No pressure.
So as we said, 2019 graduate, now a media and marketing coordinator. Kind of tell us where you're working now in that media and marketing world and then what some of your responsibilities are.
Yeah, so for those of you that maybe haven't seen me on my apparently very good episode of the Cardinals Nest in the past, I was a tennis player at St. Mary's, and the company that I work with now, we do a lot in the professional tennis industry. We make mobile apps for professional tennis tournaments. We're kind of, pivoting a little bit to do other sports as well now with the pandemic, but I'm part of the marketing team. So I do mostly a lot of the writing, articles, social media, content creation. When we were going to tournaments, I got to travel a lot to pro tennis tournaments, which was incredible. So hopefully I get to do that again. But kind of my bread and butter was being on site, chatting with fans about tennis players and our app and everything like that. So really fortunate. We're based in downtown Minneapolis and, still working from home, but loving it just the same.
Laura, I'm teaching this semester because of COVID. They had to outfit a lot of new classroom space here at St. Mary's. And so when you think back to your time here, right underneath the main gymnasium, of course, there's like the women's basketball coaches' offices down there, the locker rooms, the racquetball courts. So there was once an athletic storage room down there that they have now outfitted into a classroom. And so I'm teaching in there this semester, and lo and behold, what picture do I stare at the entire time? But none other than Laura Sonday's tennis picture. You're winding up for a big hit. And so every single Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I get to see you hanging on the wall.
Good old toner. Are we talking about toner 54 down there?
Yeah, it is 54. That's the one. Yeah.
I know it well.
Laura, if as we kind of chuckle about it, I knew you'd remember Classroom 54, but if you can just kind of go back and bring us up to date on how you the whirlwind of how you ended up at St. Mary's and decided to make St. Mary's your home for 4 years.
Yeah, I always like to tell the story that both my sisters went to St. Mary's as well, and my mom went to the master's program in the cities. And when I started looking at schools, I was like, no way, I'm not doing it. Like, I'm gonna go visit because I know they loved it, but we're not doing it. But I do feel like I knew I was going to. I was just trying to pretend like I was all different and whatever. And I went on campus with Coach Halberg, and he got me a meeting with some professors, and we went and I played tennis with some of the girls. And I was like, all right, well, I went to a few other schools, mostly in the MIAC, and I just didn't feel the same as I did when I went to visit St. Mary's. And it was kind of the perfect mix of I could get home in a day if I needed to, but nobody's dropping in on me to say hi without me knowing, sort of thing. So, although I did get a few, you're a Sunday, aren't you? And I will point out that my sister's photos are still like hanging So I'm glad there's one of me in toner 54. At least I've got that on them. But they're still like in brochures and stuff, so I could never get away from it. But I'm so glad it's definitely a family thing now.
Can you talk a little bit, the thing that I marvel at, and I know a lot of people that probably don't know this, but you came on campus, you started playing tennis, you played at number one singles for 4 years. That in itself is just incredible. You never missed a match, and every one of them was at number one singles. That certainly puts a lot of pressure on a person because, for those that don't understand tennis, when you're playing at number one singles, you're playing against the best player on the other team every single time. Talk a little bit about that, about doing that. I mean, that had to be, especially as a freshman, that had to be very difficult.
Yeah, so I can recall, so when I was a senior in high school, I actually played boys tennis because I tore my ACL. And Coach Halberg came to watch me. And the boys coach I had was kind of an eccentric, goofy dude. And he said and did a lot of funny stuff. But I remember specifically, Coach came to watch and he said, "Oh, Dan, who was my coach at the time, said, 'Oh, she's going to be your number one singles player.'" And Coach, obviously you don't say like, "Yeah," or whatever. I don't think he knew at the time really. And he was like, "Okay, yeah, because we had a lot of really talented players." And he I remember him saying, Coach telling me, he looked at me and said, "Oh, you don't know her yet." Just kind of like, it's a lot of pressure, but something that I always felt like I was super comfortable with because I went to a school where tennis wasn't the main thing, but it was always my main thing. So I was always super competitive. In college, the MIAC is tough. No, you guys are no stranger to that, but it's one of those things where you're sitting there and even the worst of schools we play against have a decent number one. Everybody else might win 0-2. They might get the picture for the week. They might get, athlete of the week or something. But I know that every day I had to go and bring my best because there's no way you can't have an off day and expect to do well at number one singles. So it was tough. It was a lot of pressure.
And I know one of the things that I know about you very well is you don't like to toot your own horn, so I get to toot it for you. And as you just said, it's very difficult to play at number one singles. 58 career singles wins, second all time to teammate of yours, Julia Bavey, but 58 wins in 79 matches is pretty darn good at number one singles.
I'd like to. I hope so. It's good for me. Yeah.
Laura, I thought, one of the things that I was always amazed at was the chemistry throughout the entire team. I mean, it was truly, I think, it may go down in St. Mary's athletics history as one of the tightest knit teams. I had a chance to ride with you and your women's tennis crew up to a Timberwolves game once, and I knew you were tight going into that trip. But I was really blown away about really how close you were. It was truly a family from, up and down that lineup, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the main selling points when I'm, talking to people about St. Mary's. For example, I coached a JV team in the Twin Cities this fall. And there was a player on the varsity team that played number one singles that I was like, "Hey, you should take a peek at St. Mary's." And she was asking me a bunch of questions and I'm like, I still talk to these people. Coach came to watch her and he was like, "Oh, he said that he's gonna drop by and say hi after this match is over." And I'm like, yeah, this is how it works for us. We were actually planning on doing a Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving thing with a few of us. We decided not to with the pandemic, but I still see these people. I still talk to them all the time. It's the relationship that I most value coming out of college, I think, is my teammates, because we're all involved in different things. We were involved in different things. And, not everybody is fortunate enough to find that, especially on their sports teams in college. And, I think when recruits come, they genuinely see how well we get along together. They see that these people like each other and they're going to take good care of me. So yeah, the quiet ones, I'm going to give Colleen Loyce a little shout out here. She was quiet when she first came, but not anymore because we broke her. So.
Well, you talk about the tightness, the close knit group that you have. As much as it is that you guys are tight to each other, you got to give Coach Halberg a little credit for there too, because his personality and his coaching style really allows you, or almost forces you, to become that tight knit group. Talk a little bit about Jeff's impact on this program. He's been there a long time, and he's done some amazing things with this program.
Yeah. The St. Mary's tennis program really owes everything it has and everything that it is to Jeff Halberg. I know that if I was stranded somewhere and I called him and said, I need you to come get me, he'd do it. He would do anything for any of us. And that is something that doesn't come easy for, some coaches, some people, but he cared about us. We're a Division III college. We're competitive. We're in the MIAC, but he cared about us as people. He cares about his players, succeeding in school. And he really takes the extra steps if somebody brings up concerns about mental health or, anything like that. And it's truly one of those situations where you sometimes look around in our conference, because like I've said, we're so competitive, that you see the behavior of some of the other coaches and you're like, oh man, I don't know if I could play for that person. I have never thought that about him. He's full of his own dad jokes. I'll give him that. But he does sincerely care about us. And I don't even think he realizes the impact that he really has. Like you've said, I mean, we couldn't have the dynamic that we do without him. He trusts us to make good choices, when we're on court and when we're off court studying. He knows that we're going to work together, and he gives us the freedom to feel like we're adults but still have somebody to count on at St. Mary's always. So, I mean, makes me tear up even just thinking about like how great he is and how great he's been to me and to all of us.
Can you talk?
Laura, I personally, I don't know anything about dad jokes.
I'll ask Erica.
Yeah, do that. Hey, give us, I don't know, a good either Coach Halberg story or kind of a good teammate story, something fun or funny that took place maybe during a road trip or something like that.
Yeah, I've got a good one. So, and it's not a long story, but it's just like his advice on court mixed with dad jokes, don't really understand. So he comes out to me, I'm playing singles, and he's, I've always been the kind of person, like I mentioned, when I was in high school, tennis wasn't really anybody's thing, but it was what I did. So if my coach came out to talk to me between changeovers, it often meant that something was going wrong. And so that translated into college, and he eventually got that. But one time I remember, I think it was junior year, maybe senior year, he came out to me and he said, I just need you to play like a spring chicken. I was like, what does that mean? And I was just like, okay, I'm assuming that means with energy. I'm not sure, but I'll do it, whatever. So I ended up winning my match. And then Julia was still playing, and he went out to her and said the same thing and said to her, I said it to Laura and she won, so I'm hoping it works here too. And she also was like, what does that even mean? And she won too. So, I mean, I guess whatever it meant, it worked well. But I will always remember that. We were both like, did you understand that? No? Okay, we're just gonna keep going.
One of the things that I know that Jeff and the tennis programs have been able to do is to travel overseas. Can you talk a little bit about the trips that you, as a player, that you were able to make with them overseas? Did you go to England as well?
Yes. Yeah. I went to England. So that was actually, the last trip they went on, unfortunately, they can't go this time because of the pandemic, but hoping for an alumni trip in a few years. Coach is thinking about it. So we went to England and Scotland, and this was actually the first time he'd ever done this. We also went to France. So we happened to be in Europe during the French Open, and he got us French Open tickets. Which was incredible. I mean, I can't even imagine. I will probably never have that opportunity again. So it was so great. You say, I mean, the knowledge that he has about England too, because he lived there for a while, is, we didn't need a tour guide. We didn't need somebody to tell us where the best restaurants were. He had it all covered. And that, I think, is another one of those experiences that pushes our team bonding to another level, because I mean, we spend a lot of time together on campus, but at least we have like our own separate dorms, but here, not really. So you really test your limits of how much time you can spend together. And it is some of the best times I'll remember. I don't know if you guys know who Paul Stewart is, but I'm thinking of a funny story while we were there. Everybody had like travel buddies. It was, when we get on somewhere, when we get off somewhere, make sure that your buddy is with us. So we got on this train and we start moving, and we see Paul still standing there waving at us. We're like, Marissa, that's your buddy. She's like, I thought he was right next to me. So anyway, we were only one stop away. So we went back and got him. But it was just one of those funny things where I just won't forget. And we went and saw the Eiffel Tower light up at night. And it was just an experience that, you know, I know that a lot of colleges and programs and whatever do, you know, trips places, but it was totally different. Just, you know, really related to what we were doing on court, but also gave us more perspective of traveling and, you know, more of a holistic, you know, remembering of a story for all of us. So it was great.
Well, I could ask a gazillion questions, but I do want, and I know, you know, like I said, I love to toot your horn because you had a phenomenal career. But what I'd like you to talk a little bit about is senior year, winning the MIAC's Chris Everett Award, because that is the pinnacle of awards that you can receive from the MIAC. And talk a little bit about what that meant to you to win that award.
Yeah, I remember at playoffs that year, we were playing against St. Thomas per usual. And I, you know, came off court, or maybe it wasn't playoffs, maybe it was just a regular match, I don't know. But I came off court and Terry, who was the St. Thomas coach, said, "Oh, it's our next Everett Award winner." And I was like, what is he talking about? Like, I didn't really know what it was. And so then I was like, oh, that's interesting. And, you know, we have such talented people in our conference that it's really such an honor. And the thing is that the way that our program conducts itself, I think, made it easier for coaches to choose, because, you know, we're not yelling at each other on the court. We're not yelling at our opponents. We're not whatever, right? At least while I was around, I wasn't doing that. And I think it makes, you know, other coaches see like they're talented on their own. They don't need to add these extra pieces. And receiving that award meant a lot to me, just, you know, on a personal level, because it was clear to me that no matter how many times I was down, lost a match, won a match, whatever, that these other coaches everywhere were paying attention, and they were worried when I would walk up and they'd be like, aren't you, you know, I remember the Mac coach being like, aren't you done yet? And I'm like, I think this means you like me, but thank you so much.
So a question I have you been able to keep up any tennis at all, either recreationally or as a coach? What are you doing in the tennis world now?
Yeah, so I was playing USTA for a while when I just got out of school. I ended up you play certain matches, and if you win matches they think you shouldn't have won or something, they flag you. If you get flagged so many times, they move you a level. And in the Twin Cities, the level that I got bumped to isn't for women, doesn't have a lot of options. But I was friends with one of the girls on the Hamlin team, and they asked me to join their world team tennis team. So it was me and a bunch of Hamlin alumni, which was an interesting dynamic to begin with. But so I did that. And this past fall, I coached a JV team in Woodbury, which I loved. JV is such a sweet spot. There's no politics. Everybody's just happy to be there. You can actually see so much improvement for them, you know. On occasion, I will say that when they were hitting or something, they'd make a mistake and I'd be like, what was that? And I'm like, oh, this is JV. I need to just remember that we're not on a college court right now. You need to relax, you know? So I'm still being involved. And as I've mentioned, the place I work, I get to work with tennis a lot, which is awesome. So always around it, never going to leave.
We got about seven or 8 minutes left, Donnie. So just wanted to.
Good. I still have lots of questions.
I got as much time as you guys want. I am here for it.
HBC limits us to 30. So.
Okay.
little bit about, with your job, you made the comment that you've got to meet a lot of professional tennis players, whatnot. Favorite one that you've met?
Yeah, so actually, I haven't gotten to meet so many of them as to go to the tournaments, but I did meet Shelby Rogers, and I really, really like her. She is so chill. We were at a hotel, the same hotel that her and her mom were staying at for this exhibition tournament that we were creating the app for. And every day they would chat with us, sit with us, talk to us, and it was one of those things where it's like, God, she doesn't have to give us the time of day. She's a professional tennis player. But she was so sweet and genuinely, she does some live stream stuff in our app as well. So we did kind of have a previous relationship, but I mean, she didn't have to do that and she decided to. So that was really awesome.
Did you were you able to watch any of the French Open? I guess it just completed it seems like forever ago, but it wasn't that long ago.
No,
what did
yeah.
you think of the way? What did you think of the way that they handled, no fans playing like that? What did you think of just the overall French Open in the COVID era?
Yeah, I think that with, the US Open kind of started the charge, and France, I think, wasn't sure what it was going to be like for them at that point. I think they handled it really well. I think one of the things is, though, that we don't necessarily see the inside. So we see what we're seeing on TV. I guess I don't know what the, the players thought, or what what their food was like. They get really touchy about that, I've heard. But yeah, it seems like the thing is, although professional tennis is really different now, the pandemic in a way has grown tennis, more kids are playing, people are watching. It's a sport that's been able to be played longer than a lot of other ones. So I think that the tournaments are doing the best that they can with the situation that they've got, and trying to make sure that everybody, has entertainment, but also that people are still making a living. So kudos to them.
I really, really, really wanted them to have to shag their own balls. I think that would have been classic.
Yeah. So we were at a exhibition tournament, and they didn't have to shag their own balls really, but they had, at this exhibition, each of them had their own balls, and there were trash cans on either side that they did have to shag their own balls actually. But between changeover, somebody would get them for them. They would have gloves on. They weren't allowed to pick it up with their hands. They'd put them in their own little waste basket. So you weren't supposed to touch the other people's with your hands. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Donnie, we each get one more question. So Laura, talk about how COVID-19 has sort of impacted your professional life. You still have a job and you're still working there, but certainly it's impacted everyone.
Yeah, I am very fortunate to work at a place that, the entire time I was like, is this going to change what we're doing? Is this going to change who we are? Am I going to have a job? And that was never even a consideration. They were working really hard to make sure that even though there weren't live sports happening, what can we do to still make sure that everybody that we care about that works for us is still here? So, my boss pivoted really quickly. I work from the kitchen table. When last, in the spring, my mom and I were both sharing a workspace, sharing an office in the kitchen, which was kind of nice because it was, different things that spending time with your parent as an adult isn't always something you get to do. So I was getting to hang out with her a lot, which was nice. Overall, though, I think that the people in my company have just worked really hard to make sure that we still are going, and we are. So it's impacted me in the way that I'm not getting to see my coworkers, which I hate, but I am getting to still have a fulfilling work life and learn different things that I wouldn't have if I was in the space maybe. So.
Sure. Donnie, before we get to your question, I want to share my screen quick because I want to show Laura a picture. I got to bring the picture up here first. Okay, there we go. I want to show Laura this. You remember this night?
I do, yes.
So that's my daughter, Erica, and she absolutely adored you, Laura, and she was happy to get that picture with you. That was at, I believe, a Gaslight event, your senior year Gaslight or Blue Angel, one of those. I think.
Well, as you probably have noticed through this interview, is there's a reason that Erica loved Laura. I mean, Laura is just class act all the way around. And Laura, if you could tell your freshman self, give them one tip of how to enjoy their 4 years at St. Mary's, what would it be?
One tip. I think that, especially first semester, freshman year is always a little bit difficult for everyone. I think that, what you see when you and your friends go off to different schools is you see only the good things, right? You see only the good stuff on Instagram and people rushing their sororities and being at, things like that. And it can be a difficult time of adjustment for everyone. And I think if somebody had told me that, I did fine having the team, but there were still hard aspects to get used to. So I think if I was to say that it's not always easy all the time for everyone, so if I could tell myself, just relax, get into it, it'll be fine. You're going to find, everything that you need. And from a professional standpoint, I semi recently got this piece of advice for, I was at a conference for women, and the woman said, you got to find a buddy and network with them. It's hard for women, especially, to kind of interrupt in a room. But if you have a friend that you're willing to go in with, and just make sure that the two of you can go up to people together, chat, introduce yourselves. That was a really big piece of advice that I've now given out to many. So love that.
Awesome.
All right, Laura Sonday, thanks so much for joining us here on 2.0. Great visiting with you again. Wish we had more time, but hopefully maybe in the future we'll do it again.
Great.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
I appreciate
you,
it.
All right, that's going to do it for Cardinals Nest 2.0. Thanks for watching.